About how the Labour performance had panned out, talking there about John McDonnell. Let's go down to Cardiff, and Owen Smith has been waiting patiently to talk to us, who, of course, challenged Mr Corbyn for the leadership. Owen, good morning to you, and I'm just wondering, what are your thoughts on Labour's performance overnight?
Well, I'm delighted. We've retained so many fantastic colleagues, and we've got 30 new colleagues. We've got a 40% share of the vote. It's a very good night for Labour. We haven't won, unfortunately, but it's an excellent performance, and Jeremy Corbyn is to be congratulated for it.
What do you think Labour people and voters will be able to make of the fact that you ran a campaign because you thought, you know, let's face it, he was a dead loss as leader?
Well, I was clearly wrong in feeling that Jeremy wouldn't be able to do this well, and I think he's proved me wrong and lots of people wrong, and I take my hat off to him.
What's been the secret of that success, then, do you think? It's down to him as a leader, or is it down to the policy proposals that Labour put forward?
Well, it has to be said both, I think, Hugh. I mean, I don't know what Jeremy's got, but if we could bottle it and drink it, we'd all be doing very well. And the manifesto, I know from my campaigning and other colleagues, was incredibly popular. People clearly warmed to the radical ideas that were proposed in the manifesto. They want an end to austerity. They want to see a government that invests in public services, and we were hearing that on the doorstep. And we were also hearing people who hadn't voted for a long while, some people who hadn't voted at all, voting Labour yesterday evening. It wasn't just young people, it was people who were inspired by the policies and it has to be said, by Jeremy, to vote Labour last night.
Andy Marr helpfully telling us that it's carrot juice in Mr Corbyn's bottle, Owen. So that's
with pure socialism.
Yes, spiked with socialism, he says. Yes, quite.
Where do I get some of this time in the morning?
The allotment.
Yeah, at the allotment, exactly. Just a thought, Owen, on the way that things move on. Mr McDonnell this morning has been basically saying that Labour's standing by to form a minority government. We've had Gus O'Donnell here telling us the numbers simply don't make sense in that regard, that the only viable option here is Conservatives with help from the DUP. Is that how you see it?
Well, I see that Theresa May has made a catastrophic mistake, but not just for the Tory party, for the country, because in some respects she was right. We do need stability at the point of the Brexit negotiations, and she's actually left us with a less stable situation to go into those negotiations, and the Labour Party must stand by ready to form the government right now if the Tories fail to cut a deal. And I hope that we get a stable government, and I hope that the Labour Party is able to form that government, because I think that manifesto that we all stood on last night would transform our country, and I hope we get an option and a possibility to put it into practice.
When we get the EU's chief negotiator, Michel Barnier, saying that they're ready to talk when the UK is ready to talk, and clearly reflecting the fact there's a good deal of uncertainty, what are your thoughts on how rigid that process should be?
Well, I don't think it should be rigid. I think there ought to be some flexibility. But I suppose what he said this morning is just a statement of fact, isn't it? They can't negotiate until they know who the government of Britain is and who their interlocutors are in the UK. I think that's why she needs to get on with it. I think John McDonnell is right to say she needs to move quickly right now. I know she will want a few hours to reflect, but I do think that it is incumbent on her as the Prime Minister, who called this election. She didn't need to. Let's not forget that. She had a majority. She didn't really need to go to the country because of Brexit. She went to the country out of political opportunism because she thought she'd be able to crush the Labour Party, and she's been completely undone. And in her undoing, unfortunately, she has left us in a less stable set of circumstances.
And given your compliments about the Corbyn campaign and Labour's campaign under his leadership, if at any stage you're asked to serve in his team, what would be your answer?
Look, I'd serve any Labour government at any point. I think Jeremy's got lots of people who've worked brilliantly alongside him during this campaign. I thought Andrew Gwynn and others were just fantastic. I'm sure he's got lots of people that he'd be called talking to, and I'll wish him well in doing that.
It's a very modest answer, Owen. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. Owen Smith there, the Labour MP. And I'm just...